Happy Monday. All right, so I'm going to just do the quick little intro here. So welcome. I am Julie. You are tuning in to the Wellness Movement on Spanglish World and her networks on Zingo TV, channel 250 and 251. So please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the App Store. And Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire and Fire Sticks, Roku, and Roku Sticks on all smart TVs from 2016 forward. So I have a lovely guest here today, and I would like to read her bio. Yeah. So this is the wonderful Audrey Dendy-Hightower. So Audrey's story is inspiring to those who want to have a positive outlook even when things don't look so positive. Her own story fuels her focus of redefining self-care. She's a speaker and a certified professional coach with a unique core energy approach. She partners with clients to teach them about energy level awareness and determines strategies to have a guilt-free approach to self-care. The ultimate goal is to improve how they show up in and out of the workplace when they struggle to put themselves on their own agenda. She is the founder of You Unlimited, a company that she started to offer coaching services that highlight her special brand of project management and coaching skills, expertise, and passion. Audrey has been working in corporate for 30 years as a leader for technology projects, primarily on Wall Street. She is a native New Yorker who now resides in Pennsylvania. Her downtime involves spending time with her family, being active in her church ministries, and embracing her new grandmother role. Wow. Nice.
Yes.
Welcome. Happy Monday.
I know. This is pretty cool.
Yeah. So, this is probably the first time you've done an interview with someone who's water fasting.
It is. It definitely is. But I don't know. This is the first time you're doing an interview while doing a water fast, or you've done this?
No, this is actually, this is my first interview that I'm conducting while doing a water fast. So
okay, you're doing well.
Thanks. Yeah, I think my brain's a little slow because I stumbled on that bio unnecessarily. So yeah. Anyway, welcome.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. As I sip on my water.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was hoping to sort of start back.
Yeah.
What before you made this transition to coaching, like I want to find out what was going on for you that made you realize that things were maybe not in balance, and the other thing also is I'm always shocked at how many people aren't open to the idea that there could be another way.
Yeah. Yeah. So to go back for me, my career working on Wall Street and project management for technology projects, I loved it. And I've always worked in technology. So technology is never 9 to 5, right? So it's weekends. And so I worked crazy schedules while I was married and, having my family. And I enjoyed that. So leadership roles always seem to find me, right? Like I never seemed to volunteer. I was never that person that set the goal for themselves. Like at this age, I want to be, a CEO or a VP. That just wasn't my story. But What happened was I went to one of my companies that I was working at the time. They had a pilot leadership training. And at the time, I had been in leadership over 20 years, like close to 25 years. And it was the first time that I was taking a leadership training. And it was a pilot at this company, and it was a travel company. So I go to the training, and it was a couple of days at the job. And the whole time, I'm just thinking, wow, so there's all these leaders here that, you've never been trained to be a leader, right? When you think about it, like we just do it. you have some expertise, or you have some domain knowledge, or you're performing well, and then you just get promoted, right? Because of what you know, not necessarily because of the skills that's required to be a leader, like having empathy or being able to connect with, like none of those things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I thought about that and I was like, this is interesting. So the whole time the instructor is there, she's teaching, and the whole time I'm thinking, I could do her job. The whole time thinking I could absolutely do what she's doing. And she was a woman and she was talking about women in leadership. And I was like, I could definitely do this. So that was the first like firing off that happened in my brain to think I could do this shift. But all along, I've always been the empathetic leader. So as a leader, I've always connected with those that are in my team or those people that worked for me on a personal level, because I felt like you are person first. Before you
Right.
show up in the workplace, you're an individual with real life and real stuff happening. So I always, that's just me and who I am. So I go to this training and I call my sister-in-law, who was a coach at the time. She was going through coaching training. And she said, Audrey, you should be a coach. And I'm like, what is that? So she was telling me a little bit about it. And I was like, well, I think I would like that. Like, I think, I do that anyway. Right. So I said, I think I would like that. So then that took it to the next level. I was looking into different places to get training. And when I was doing the research, I found this one place to get training, and then I got laid off.
Oh, wow.
And when I got laid off, I thought, I can't afford this training because training was expensive and I wasn't working. And although I thought I would find a job in short order, I ended up being out of work, Julie, for a year and a half.
Wow.
And
Whoa.
and so during that time, I took a huge leap of faith and I enrolled in a training program. And I didn't see the end of how I was going to pay for the whole thing. I just did it. Was like, I just felt like this is for me. This is what I want to do. So I just went ahead and I just did it. So that was like another step. So all along the way, I'm taking these little baby steps towards where I want to be. And as I was going through the training, I realized even more and more. I said, this is what I love to do. Like, this is what I feel like I was born to do.
You know what's interesting is, have you heard that saying, jump and the net will appear?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I always find it so interesting how the universe, God, consciousness, all of it, how we get tested, right?
Yes.
It's like you get presented an opportunity at the same time that you get presented with a major obstacle. And let's face it, like, we've all been conditioned to think that you absolutely need a job, like you need a 9 to 5, Monday to
Yeah.
Friday. If you don't have that, you're seriously screwed.
Mm-hmm.
And it does take an incredible leap of faith to go, okay, I'm gonna do this. I don't know how it's gonna work out, but I'm just gonna trust.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that is it in a nutshell at that stage in my life. And that's where I was, because I didn't see the end. And it takes a huge leap of faith, and it takes some faith and a belief in something in order to jump before you see the net, before you see anything, right? You have to believe in something. Otherwise, maybe there won't be a net for you if you don't believe.
It's true. I mean, in my experience, I've taken some pretty big leaps. I'm in the middle of a big leap right now.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But I'm just trusting the process and going with the flow and dealing with whatever comes up, right?
But then in that process, you find out and you discover things about yourself, right? That you didn't even know was inside of you.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the best part about this journey that we're on called life, because we take these leaps and we can't see the end. sometimes we don't even know why we're doing it. Like we kind of feel like, you kind of feel like this urge and you're like, why am I doing this now? Like, I don't even have the wherewithal. Like, why? Am I crazy? What am I doing?
I get it. I get it. Because I had someone message me last night and they said, "Oh, I looked at your social media. You're in California. Are you not worried about the travel advisory?" And I was like, I don't live my life in fear. I live my life in faith. And there was something that was calling me to do this right now.
Yeah.
And I decided that I was going to take that leap of faith. And I'm doing all the precautions. I'm protecting myself. And so beyond that, I just leave it up to the creator.
Absolutely. I had a similar conversation with my mom just this morning. We were talking about I don't know what, going out, in this COVID-19 world and taking precautions and being aware where the numbers were going up in some region. I don't know, because I'm going to be traveling next week. Next week I'm traveling to Cancun. And I'm going to a conference, and my mom was like, well, you should, she said to me, you should be fearful. And when she said that, I was like, why? Why? I said, Mom, I don't live my life in fear. I choose not to do that. I am not doing that. I can't live my life in fear. I have to live my life. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen, and it will happen whenever it's going to happen, and it will meant to be. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I agree 1,000%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just can't do that. So I continued on that journey, and I finished. So all the while, I'm looking for a job doing training. Like, I'm really, really looking for a job hard. And I thought to myself, the thought came to me. I said, you know what, Audrey, you're not going to find a job until the training is over. Like, I just felt like God just opened up the space for this time for me to go through my training, and then he would give me a job when the training was over. And that's exactly the way it happened.
Yeah.
That was exactly, I said, okay, okay, everything's working out just the way it's supposed to. Absolutely.
It's also, I find that when we're presented with those kinds of obstacles, you have an opportunity to train yourself to kind of look at the world a little bit differently.
Yes. And look at yourself differently too, right? Like, you definitely look at the world differently, and yourself, because that's a time to see where you're going to be bolder than you've ever been before, right? You're going to be braver than you've ever been before. You're going to be pushed outside of your comfort zone, and you're going to be in a place where you're going to be uncomfortable, and you don't necessarily know how long you're going to be there, but it's not, it's not going to kill you. You're going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's also, like, for me, this time, I look at it so differently than the people around me. So I'm like, this is the time to build your resiliency tools.
Yes.
This is the time to strengthen your faith. This is the time to work on your health, right? Because a lot of people are working from home. And, not to say that it's perfect for everybody. Obviously, there's a lot of people who are struggling.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's also a massive wake-up call for us to really examine how we're doing life. Is it working? Is it not working? Like, I usually find when we get a slap like this from the universe, it is a call to action.
You know what? You're spot on. And so I'm still working in corporate now, and I'm coaching and working, and I live in Pennsylvania, but I work in Wall Street. So that's a 2-hour commute each way to go to work and to come back home. And prior to COVID, I was doing it for years, right? And never even thought about changing it. I'm like, oh, I'm good. I used that commuting time as my downtime. So I would have my woosah moments and calm myself down before I came home. And it worked out. But when the shutdown happened, I totally reinvented myself, right? I took more time for me. My self-care became really, really important, even though I still gained COVID weight, but that's another thing. So I still,
I can
I
help you with that.
right? I took time for myself, meaning I started meditating
Mm,
more because now I have time back in my
yeah.
calendar where I would used to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I would be on a bus at 5:20. But
Wow.
now I have that time back in my calendar in my day. So I started thinking about how valuable my time was. I'm like, okay, I didn't have this time before. So now I have this time. So now I get to choose what I'm going to do with this extra time. Am I just going to sleep, or am I going to bless you, or
Excuse
am I
me. Thank
going
you.
to take advantage of this time and do some of the things that I couldn't do before, right? Because
Mhm.
I just couldn't do it. I was commuting and my life was very, very different. So now I do. I take the time to meditate in the morning. I read. I have my downtime. During the day, I can cook healthy meals. I don't have to eat out as much, right? So it definitely is an opportunity to do the things that you couldn't do that you said, I don't have time for. Guess what?
Right.
We all have a lot of time now.
I really have a lot of time.
We all have tons of time.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's just really analyzing what your priorities are, right?
Yeah,
And
reassessment.
recognizing your excuses.
Exactly. The excuses, that was it. But what's interesting? What I found was interesting that everyone, when you find yourself in these situations and you think you coming up with the only idea, only to find out that everybody has the same idea that you have. So again, I'm home and I'm like, okay, so I'm going to exercise. So I hate exercising, but anyway, I was like, I have to exercise. So I said I'm going to get a bike. So I went out only to find out everybody wanted to buy a bike. So you couldn't even buy a bike. It was so difficult to buy a bike. I went to the bike shop and the walls, normally wall to wall with bikes, was all empty. And so I'm thinking, what in the world? Like everyone's buying a bike. So I managed to get a bike and I started bike riding. And then of course you have to get the headgear. Like I had to get the everything. I had to get the outfit. It can't just be the bike.
The
You have to
gear.
do everything else. But reassessing the priorities is definitely a key thing, right? Family,
Mhm.
eating better, exercising. It's all about taking that time that we all have now and not wasting it because
Yeah.
you're never going to get that minute back before. And that's the way I thought about it. That everyone complained, I can't do that because I don't have enough time because your work took a lot of your day. At least for me, I work from home. So there are a lot of people who are working from home who are in very different situations, and they take even more time because work could have been a place for them to get a breather away from home, right?
Right.
So those situations are difficult, and I'm not undermining that or making light of those situations because it's hard. If you have small children, it's definitely hard.
Mhm.
Um, it's not my situation, so I'm able to definitely reassess my priorities and bring forward some of the things that I have pushed down in the back for so long because I
Mhm.
didn't have time. So now I don't have an excuse.
Yeah.
There's no excuses at
You're in,
all.
you're in an excuse-free zone.
I am. This is a funny story. When I first started working from home, I my computer was in my bedroom because I wouldn't work from home all the time, just every once in a while.
Mhm.
And having the computer in my bedroom was not a big deal. I'm like, okay, for the few times that I'm on Zoom or on video, if they're looking and seeing my bed, like, okay, everybody has to sleep. So, okay, you're looking at my bedroom. It's not a big deal. My room is clean, it's pretty. I'm not worried about it. But now everyone's working from home. And so I'm like, well, I can't have everyone looking at my bedroom. That is not going to work now. So I moved my office from upstairs to downstairs, and I had the living room. I don't know if you grew up like this, but I grew up in an apartment or in a home where the living room was a place nobody went into the living room. Right? It just looked good, but you didn't go. So I had a living room. Nobody went into it. I'm like, I need to utilize that space. It needs to be functional for me right now. So I made it my office. And at the time, the infrastructure for the internet wasn't really built up and strong. So everyone's using their cell phones and everything at the same time. And I'm trying to get on the conference at work, and I couldn't. And something happened to the furnace in my home. It was cold in my home. And a friend of mine sent me a text. He said, "How you doing?" I said, "I'm doing okay." I said, "Well, I can't get online at work because the computer is slow. I keep dropping my calls and the furnace is not working." So my friend replied, "Oh, so you're having a bad day?" And I replied back immediately, Julie. I said, "Nope, I don't have bad days." And so my friend replied, "Okay, so you're not having such a good day." I said, "Nope, not even that." I said, "They're just little bumps in the road and I'll get over it. In fact, I'm already over it."
Yeah.
But you ever have those moments where you say something out of your mouth and even to you it sounds profound, right? So to me, it was like, I don't have bad days. And that was just from that moment. It's been a year now. I still hold on to that, where I don't have bad days, period.
So you might appreciate this. I showed up at the airport in Toronto Friday morning, expecting to get on a 7 a.m. flight to Dallas. And then I was supposed to have a connection from Dallas to Santa Rosa, which is where I am right now, California. And I showed up at 4:30 in the morning and there was no flight. There was no flight. So the agent that I was dealing with, she was like, "You're so calm." I said, "Well, there's no need to get upset." Like, they had put me on a 12:45 to Dallas, the one flight that they had out of Pearson. And I said, "Well, that's not going to work because I don't actually have business in Dallas. I have business in California.
Right.
So sending me to Dallas is not going to be a good work. If you could find me an alternative, that would be great."
Right.
So she worked away on her little computer and found me a different airline and a different flight, a different route for me to get here that same day. And I was like, "Sure, I'll take." So here's a lesson in faith, right? So I flew from Toronto to Vancouver, Vancouver to San Francisco. San Francisco is not my final destination.
Right.
But he was like, "Are you going to be able to get from San Francisco airport to wherever you're going?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll figure it out." I'm going to figure it out. I'm just thinking, okay, well, it's too early on the West Coast. I can't call anyone. But once I land in Vancouver, I can figure it out. Like, I'm sure there'll be some car service or something. And I found this like older Bulgarian gentleman who drives. When I called him up, I was like, "Hey, I need a lift from San Francisco airport to True North." And he's like, "Oh yeah, I take people there all the time. It's a great place, blah, blah." Like, he's just talking up the place. And I just knew I had, when you have the knowing, I was like, I'm going to be fine. It's like, it's divine timing, divine plan, whatever.
Yeah.
The American Airlines agent was saying to me, she's like, "You're so calm. Like, I would be so pissed off." And I was like, getting pissed off doesn't work.
Exactly. It doesn't help you. It's going to drive up your blood pressure over something that you have zero control over. Right?
Exactly.
In that moment.
Yeah, I'm like, wow, this is the first time I've come, nobody had emailed me, nobody had texted me. And I'm thinking, shoot, I sure would have appreciated a little bit more sleep this morning. The flight didn't leave till 9 a.m. But at the same time, I just was like super conscious. Like, how can you be so calm? I'm like, I meditate every day. So.
You know what? I started meditating when I was taking my training for coaching training. And it was the best thing. I mean, there were a lot of good things that came out of my coaching training, but meditating just a little bit and then learning about it more and more afterwards, it was the best thing ever. And, people say all the time, mindfulness and meditate and center yourself, but it really, really, really works. It so works. I'm in the middle of writing a book, and I sat down. I had my big chair, and I had my my book down with the pen. I'm getting ready to write down my thoughts, and I got a phone call. And the person on the other end of the phone call was so upset and trying to upset me. Now, I don't think they're trying. You know how some people are just upset and they just want you to be as excited about whatever it is that's me as you are. And I just wasn't. One, I wasn't that upset about it, and two, I felt like in that moment, I said, okay, I need to get off this phone and I need to center myself because I'm going to take all of that energy and it's going to go into my book. And I didn't want that.
Yeah.
So I got off the phone gracefully and then I meditated. I just sat there and I just closed everything. I sat there and I centered myself, and it was as if everything just kind of washed away. Like this big wave came over me. It just washed everything away. I was calm, and then I just sat down and then I just continued writing. So there's magic in meditation for me.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I get so many powerful insights in meditation. And one of my intentions for being here is actually doing longer meditations. Yeah.
Like what's long? Is long like hours or?
I'd like to do 90 minutes to 2 hours.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Because everyone that I like really, really admire, they're like doing 2-hour meditations.
Yeah. So when you meditate, do you see colors?
Sometimes it usually takes, I would say like my meditations have like a certain sort of sequence. Like it takes a few minutes for my mind to just quiet.
Yeah.
And then I kind of like drop into the zone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes I'll have like stuff just kind of bubble up to the surface. It's really, really interesting. And then there's just also things that are going on in my physical body, which I'll notice like there might be more tension the first 20 minutes or so, and then after it just goes away. So I know there are certain schools that, advocate for 20 minutes. Like for me, 20 minutes, I'm barely in.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess because you're much more advanced. I mean, I could the most I could meditate is probably 45 minutes. I think it's the most I've meditated, and just loved it. Just absolutely loved it. But that is also part of self-care that I think is so, so, so very important. And it's one of the things that when I said, like, when you read it, I would just like to redefine what self-care is. When people think about self-care, what are the things they think about? And meditating is one of the things at the top of the list should be that when you think about self-care, because it truly, truly, it centers you, it clears your mind, it allows you to be so much more creative. And then the troubles of the world, you're less affected by things like the story you told about going to be at the airport, right? Because you were centered beforehand. So it's like,
Yeah.
it doesn't really
I just
bother
was
me.
like, I know I'm going to get there by the end of the day somehow.
Yeah, yeah. So that's a good thing. I mean, being able to meditate for 2 hours is amazing.
Oh, I like this morning I did about an hour 20.
Wow. No, that's really, really good. That's awesome. That's awesome. That's going to be, I'm working on a what I call an I am challenge right now. And the I am is an acronym for it's all about me. And I'm going to do it for 5 days. Eventually I'm going to open it up to a group, but I want to do it first. And it's going to be 5 days of meditation, and the whole premise is that we're all busy, right? So people have lives and they're busy and they have children, they have everything. So a lot of times when people think of self-care, they think of 1 hour massages, or they think of manicures and pedicures and these things that take long periods of time, but it doesn't necessarily have to be, right? Like you could spend a couple of minutes on yourself during the daytime, and that's just enough what you need to help, center you. So yeah, meditation is definitely going to be part of my challenge when I roll it out.
Yeah, and I think also that people have this, you have to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Like nobody would start, well, unless you're going to a Vipassana meditation retreat where they have you meditate for 11 hours a day, you don't have to start with like
Right.
2-hour meditation. Just doing 5 minutes, you're going to feel a difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When you're not doing anything, 5 minutes is huge. It's when we were doing our training, I think that's how long we meditate. It's maybe 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, the whole class. And it feels longer in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
But as you start doing it more and more, then you can get into it more and more. And then you'll be like you, where I can meditate for 20 minutes and you're like, 20 minutes is nothing. I'm barely getting started at 20 minutes time, right? But yeah, it's about that too, right? It's just a 5 minute, it's a five or 10 minute I am challenge, just to say that's all, like just for now, 5 minutes a day. Like who can't say they don't have 5 minutes
Yeah.
in a day? Like you're not that busy. Just give yourself 5 minutes to just disconnect from the cell phone, disconnect from everything, and allow yourself something that you want to do, and then write about it.
Mm-hmm. Do you help the clients that you're working with? Do you help them sort of like look at their calendar and find the pockets of time?
I do.
Because
I
like
do.
everybody kind of has this perception, I'm so busy, I'm so busy, I'm so busy. But if you have a third party look at it, they can find those spaces in your day. And even if you can find pockets of a few minutes
Absolutely.
right there.
Yeah, you can. I mean, I was working with a client not that long ago where it was the reverse, where the calendar was so busy and this person just kept taking on more and more. And so I had them look at their calendar and say, okay, before you take on anything else, just look at your calendar and see something has to come off, right? Because you can't just keep saying yes to everything and making your calendar more and more crowded, and then nothing gets done.
Yeah. And you
Right?
feel overwhelmed because there's all this stuff that's going on that you have to take care of. So
Absolutely.
it's funny because like I'm actually here. They encourage you here to like reflect, right? And there's something that I've been a part of that I've like, you know what, this really isn't, the time's not working for me. It's a mastermind that I'm in. The time's not working for me. I miss all the calls. I don't have an opportunity to go back and watch the replays. Is this really fitting into my life? Like, not
Right.
right now. Not right now. Maybe in a year. So I actually have to message the person who runs this and go, you're amazing, but I have to bow out because this thing is hanging over my head. But right now, I cannot commit that time.
But that's good. That's you're honoring yourself, right? And you're being true and you're being authentic to yourself, and understanding that you're not doing yourself any justice, and you won't be benefiting from the program if you can't play full on, right?
Yeah.
If you can't show up 100%, you're not doing it. But that's a good thing. That's a good thing to do. And it doesn't mean no forever. It's just no for now.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like it's funny because like it's just so interesting to have this space to kind of reflect, right? And I think like for most people that one of the problems is it's that they have so much crowded into their day
Yeah.
that there's no space. There's no space in here. There's no space at all.
And it's a new concept, and you're introducing people who are just crowded and they're busy, 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 to stop and just be and just reflect. It's a foreign concept, right? And it actually puts them out of their comfort zone because they're comfortable being busy, right? They're not comfortable just actually reflecting and just being alone with their own thoughts for however long a period of time that is, right? But it's therapeutic, and it's so necessary so you can unpack your life. Otherwise you're always on this wheel, constantly, 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 and your body feels it. right? Because you're always stressed out, you're always tensed up, and your body holds on to all of that. Our bodies remembers everything. And
Mm-hmm.
so you don't realize that you're going through and you think you're handling things until you stop and you realize, okay, my shoulders are dropping, my eyebrows are dropping. It's like my cheeks are
My jaw's
dropping.
relaxed.
Exactly. Everything's relaxed. You don't realize you're like this all day long. You just tensed up. So yeah, having that time to reflect, I think everyone should do, and it doesn't have to be long.
Mm-hmm. No, it doesn't. It just, and it's also, I think for a lot of people, like just going over and figuring out what are you committed to and what is it time to just politely say no to,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah. There's these three questions that I go through in my head from my years of project management, and even for me, if I'm going to take on something, I'll ask myself, one, what is it that I'm getting ready to engage in? Like just fully having an understanding of what it is, enough to make a decision, not that you need to do a big research project, but enough to make a decision, and then figure out what the impact is going to be, either financially or are there other people, cost wise? Do I need to put up some additional money that I do or do not have? Do I need to engage other people? Like, what's the impact going to be to this decision or taking on this thing? And then the third thing is, do I have to do it now?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's like, okay, yeah, I understand what it is. And I understand that it may not be an impact, but can you do it? And do you have to do it now? And so I
Right.
just run through those three things. And if it's like, okay, I don't have to do this right now, maybe you don't have this time for it right now. Maybe now is not the best time to do it. And so again, you put it aside. It's not no forever, it's no for now. And then
Mm-hmm.
you go back to it when your calendar frees up or when you have less dependencies on other resources or whatever it is, right?
Yeah. I think like the other thing is, I think one of the issues, well, one of the many issues with COVID has been that so many people, when everything kind of stopped, it's that people are not actually used to that slowdown,
Yeah.
right? And that forced slowdown, like some people took the opportunity to reflect, and for a lot of people, it just kind of caused them to spin out.
Yeah. Yeah. I know for me, the slowdown initially, being a native New Yorker, I'm known for being on that little hamster wheel and just constantly moving, moving, moving. And like I said before, I had a 2 hour commute each way. And some people I would tell them I have a 2 hour commute. They're like, are you crazy? What's wrong with you? I'm like, works for me. Like I'm just fine. Now, hindsight, I look at it, I'm like, what was I crazy? But but I look the slowdown because I was still working. And I just had now when my day's over, I'm home as opposed to getting on a train or a bus and then getting home, I'm already home.
Mm-hmm.
But then when the racial tension started to happen in this country, which was right around the time right after COVID, that just took the wind out of my sail. I felt like I just couldn't be creative. I just couldn't do anything because I felt so helpless. And I felt like, okay, I need to be doing more. Like, and I didn't know what the more was, right? At
Yeah,
that moment. But I felt like there's something else I need to be doing. Like staying at home, even though we were in COVID, just didn't feel right.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it was interesting because so the very first march I went to was the like I mean, I do a lot of activism work, but after when we were all locked down last spring, the very first march I went to was a Black Lives Matter march.
Yeah.
And I had a conversation with a friend of mine. I was like, "Oh, we're supposed to be still locked down. Like, do I go? Do I not go?" And then a part of me was just like, "Well, there's no way I can't not go. Like,
Exactly.
I have to go." I'm like, I'm going to bring my mask. I'm
Yep.
going to check out the situation. And if I feel it's unsafe, I can leave.
Right.
Otherwise, I'm going to do the march.
Right. Right.
And that's what I did.
Yeah. Yeah. And you felt good about it, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think with everything that's going on, it's important to like stand up and be counted.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's so because we all have a part. to play. Even in our small little microcosm in our world where we live, we have a part. And I think it's our responsibility and our duty to stand up against injustice. And so that's why during those moments, I felt so helpless. I was like, what? So I did a march locally in my community, and then I got involved in voting. And so I got really, really involved in voting for the upcoming election that was in 2020, because I was just trying to be creative and think of what could I do from home, right? Because I mean, we were in COVID, right? It's only was so much you could do, right?
Yeah.
But that just took the wind out of my sail a little bit, and then I started to come around September, October timeframe. I started to come back to being myself, and then the creativity started to come back. So
but
it
I
was
also think like it was because I also felt that last summer,
yeah.
where I just felt like,
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
and I think it was just all this collective energy that was like weighing me down.
Yeah.
And so, but I mean, obviously, I'm not a African American woman, so it's like it's not just what happened. It's all the history.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all the history. It's just watching everything play out on TV. It was very different. It felt different. I mean, wasn't alive in the 60s when the police officers I wasn't there during that time when the marches and civil rights movement. I wasn't there for that, but this just felt different. And I don't think it mattered, or even still matters, what color you are. It's just right is right and wrong is wrong, right? And you're just seeing things, and it's just you have to stand up for what's right and what's wrong. And everybody felt it. It really was a energy that was in the atmosphere. Everybody felt it. It was terrible.
It was interesting because in the Toronto March, I was surprised. Like Toronto's a very racially diverse city. So I was happy to see that there were people from all walks of life.
Yes.
Like all the colors of the rainbow.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's really, really good because you're people, right? It's a humanity issue. It's not, I mean, it was a racial issue at some point, but it's also it was inhumane the way some of these incidents happen. And I think that's what people were standing up for. It's a humanity issue.
Yeah.
So it was just important. So that just took everything away. Again, I was like you, I felt this weight, and I almost felt like a small depression behind it, which I don't normally get depressed. But afterwards, I'm thinking, was I depressed? Like I had to think about it. Like, is that what depression feels like? Because I'm always happy and upbeat, but during that moment, it just took a lot out of me to get going and get moving and just do the things that I normally would get all fired up about, and have me questioning, like, what really matters, right? So I was questioning myself on that level, like what's really important here and what really matters, at least right now.
Yeah. It's interesting times. Like I think it will be interesting to see like 10 years from now when we reflect back to 2020 and 2021, like we're still in the midst of it. We don't really know how it's going to play out and what's going to like shift. I mean, my hope is that we have these kinds of, societal changes that have to happen.
Yeah. And I think they will happen. I think at least the conversations will happen, whereas before they wouldn't have, right? People just wouldn't be as open as even having the conversations. So at least having the conversations brings awareness to all issues. And so it's important that we're able to talk about all issues. So it's going to be really interesting. I agree. I think those of us who have lived through this moment will be wearing it like a badge of honor in a couple of years. Like, oh yeah, I have 5 masks still from. So this is what I was doing. Oh yeah, I remember that.
I got 2 on my trip.
Exactly.
I wore my tofu never caused a pandemic mask on the plane.
Oh, so, I love that tofu never caused a pandemic.
It's true. Tofu has never caused a pandemic. And look at how cute tofu is. I mean,
That is totally cute. I
Freaking
love it. I
adorable.
think that's what it's going to be. I was talking to my sister. I said, I am not buying another mask. I'm done. I have
I have 3 or 4, and I had someone try to sell me a mask, and I said, I cannot.
right.
On principle, I refuse to accumulate yet another mask, you know?
I'm not doing it. I have a basket in my car that has gloves. I have a disposable mask and I have hand sanitizer and wipes, and I just keep it in my car because I'm not on autopilot yet. You know, Julie, when I get out my car, sometimes I'm still walking away and I'm like, oh, let me go back and get my so I just keep it all in my car right now. But yeah, I'm not buying anymore. I have several masks. I'm like, I'm done. I'm not buying any more masks. Soon we won't have to wear them. And then what are we gonna do with all these masks when we're not gonna have to wear them?
Yeah, well, exactly. Exactly.
We're gonna have to think about
I'm voting for a mask-free world.
oh
That was probably the most challenging, besides my flight getting canceled, was, oh, there's no plane to take me where I want to go. That's an obstacle, but
just a little one.
just tiny.
A
But
little.
I had because I like you, I work from home. I'm not used to wearing a mask. I work
Right.
from home all day long. I don't see anybody besides clients
Yep.
online and
Yep.
whatever phone conversations I'm having. And I usually go for a big walk. Like this has been a new routine that I adopted is I get up in the morning, I do my meditation, get the dogs out, and then I put on my running shoes and I was just going for a nice long walk,
Mm-hmm.
listening to personal development,
Yep.
you know, stuff, and so I don't wear a mask while I'm walking outside
Right. Right.
because there's nothing to be afraid of. And so it was like I was like, I don't know how I'm going to deal with wearing a mask for that many hours because you have to have it on all through the airport, on the airplane. That was probably.
I am right there with you. I'm home. Don't wear a mask. When I go out for a walk again, I don't wear a mask. When I go to the supermarket, I am like a ninja warrior. I am in and out of it because I have this mask on and I wear glasses, so they're fogging up because the glasses are not in the right place, and I'm sweating underneath the mask. I'm like, I cannot wear this mask. It's just terrible. My skin broke out because of the mask.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I'm with you. Mask-free world. We need a mask-free world.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen.
Like, morning meditations, I'm trying to raise the vibration so we can get through this thing. You know?
No, that's definitely true. That's definitely true. We at my church, they started going back for Easter Sunday. And I was sitting there thinking the same thing. I'm like, wow, okay, I'm going to be in church for what, an hour, maybe an hour and a half, wearing a mask the whole time. I don't wear masks for that length of time anywhere right now.
Mm-hmm.
And like you, I'm going to be traveling, and I'm thinking about the same thing. I'm like, I'm going to have to wear a mask in the airport, on the flight. How was it though? How was it wearing a mask for so long?
It wasn't bad. The flight that I had to Vancouver, I was socially distanced from a woman, and there was like a seat between us.
Mm-hmm.
And we managed to get away with not wearing a mask for part of the flight, which was great.
Yeah.
For the flight, we got away with it. Like her and I, we just hit it off. We were like,
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
You know, and so then I didn't really have to put it back on until the woman in the row ahead of us complained, "Oh, they're not wearing their mask." I'm like, I did a COVID test. I'm negative, baby. I
had
couldn't
a COVID
even
test.
be on this plane if I was positive. So
Right. Did you also get the vaccine or no?
no,
Okay.
I don't think we're. It's like it's rolled out differently in Canada, so I don't think they're there yet.
Yeah, yeah. The only thing that I got a little like hair raising on my neck is in the supermarket and the stores. I would get people that would still stand like very close to you, behind you on lines, and I found myself thinking about like being aware of it. I'm like like, in my head, I'm like, aren't they a little close? And then I would just reposition myself, and then I'm okay. But
Yeah,
other
yeah,
than that, that's the only thing.
yeah. So you're writing a book?
I am. Yes, I am. I made the declaration earlier this year that I was going to write a book. I've had book ideas for about 15, 20 years. And I decided this is the year I'm doing it. And I am just stepping out and I'm going to write this book. I have a coach that's helping me pull all my ideas together because I've never written a book before. But
Nice.
I'm super, super excited about it.
What is it about?
So it's about lessons that you've learned from when you were younger. So they're basically letters to my younger self.
Oh, wow. I
So
I got goosebumps. I
yay!
just got goosebumps from hearing. Yes, I love it. I love it.
Good, good, good. So I'm like, I have a couple of chapters and I'm going to Cancun next week. And my thought is that I'm going to finish it in Cancun. I just thought about that this morning. I said, you know what? I'm going to be at a conference, but on my downtime, I'm going to write and I'm going to finish it while I'm in Cancun. Because that's a
Nice.
beautiful, I'm thinking that'll be a nice setting. I'll be on a beach somewhere and I'll have my book and the thoughts will just flow and I'll just write and I'll finish it. And then I'll go to the next step. I don't know. Publishing, I haven't worked those details out yet. but, but yeah, that's the first one. I know there's going to be more, but that's definitely the first one. I
That's
can't wait.
amazing. I love
Yeah.
it. I love that idea. I love that
Yeah.
concept.
Yeah, so I'm so glad you had that response. So that's giving me good vibes. This is great, Julie. This is really, really good.
I love it. So then how we got to wrap up soon. So how can people find you?
So I am on www.youunlimitedly.com, and there's only one U. And You Unlimitedly is also my name on Instagram and on Facebook. I don't have a YouTube channel, but yeah, so I post inspirational sayings every day on those pages and other things that I'm involved in. If someone likes me or friends me, they'll get the notifications when I'm doing other talks or speeches or shows or whatever I'm doing. And when my book comes out and when I get little excerpts from the different chapters, they'll be able to get that as well.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's really awesome. Like it's such a I'm curious to see how that book turns out.
I will definitely be connected.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you'll know. You'll definitely.
You'll have to come back and share excerpts of it and share, you know, what you learned in the creative process and all
Oh,
of it.
and that I would love to do that. Love to do that. Because I've learned so much doing it. I'm thinking I am loving the process. I was thinking if this book never gets published, like I'm just loving the process, but
Yeah.
it will get published and I will come back.
Nice. Awesome. So I just gotta, well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for inviting me. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So to those of you that are watching, this show can be heard on Spanglish Radio Network. Our network is part of Spanglish World Media. Please check out spanglishworld.ca for all the news and programming. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thank you, thank you. Thanks for starting my week off on a high note.
Yeah, awesome.
I don't know if they're gonna, oh, yeah.